the democratization of fashion.
And there was quite a lot of people there actually, and like whole people. It's great. I keep opening.
Let's talk about it since this is a conversation that makes the rounds regularly, much like fashion trends.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about fashion is the trends have traditionally been driven by, the fashion editors in New York and Paris and Milan who say, this is what you should dress like, this is what's cool today. But I think the internet has a way of democratizing everything that it touches. So, that's happening in the fashion industry too.
Hi, welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things related to fashion. I'm Jody Jan. I have worked in the fashion industry for over 30 years for over 50 brands. I want to talk about this from both a personal and professional point of view. First, let me give you a backstory and why I'm discussing this topic. As an immigrant from China, I didn't come from a background of having a lot of money as a kid. All members of my family had to wear a lot of hand-me-downs from other people in our Chinese community who outgrew their clothes. If you want to see how fashionable my parents were with their hand-me-downs, and where I get my passion for fashion from, subscribe to my Patreon for it. It wasn't like I wasn't able to get new clothes as a kid, but I was only able to get them 3 times a year and in limited amount, and that was once for school, since it was about the time I had a huge growth spurt and my parents allowed me to have something for school that was new as a good luck present to do well in school. Once for Chinese New Year. This was part of a Chinese tradition of welcoming the new year of change and having a new beginning, and getting rid of bad luck, so hand-me-downs weren't acceptable. Once for a special occasion like my birthday or Christmas, it was the way my parents wanted us to assimilate into American culture. My mom knows how to sew, which people of her generation and even some of mine were taught sewing either at home or as a home economics course as a life skill. Sadly, I don't think this is taught anymore as it's considered low class with sweatshop connotations, and only value when it's done at an atelier for a major fashion brand. About half my clothes were in store-bought or hand-me-downs as a kid, but made by my mom. I don't think I got anything new that was a brand name until I was 15 years old. It was a pair of blue jeans from Sergio Valente with blue pinstripes. Does anyone remember these? My entire wardrobe was either made by my mom, from the jobbers in the Lower East Side, or hand-me-downs from people my parents knew. However, I was never a kid who lacked style just because my access to fashion was limited to a lot of hand-me-downs. It's the same way people who thrift nowadays instead of getting hand-me-downs. The difference is I only took things that I needed and fit me. Then I pass the bag along to the next person to get their hand-me-downs. I don't take what doesn't fit me like people taking plus-size clothing from actual plus-size people. I don't do hauls for my social media to get clout or go viral. I'm not sure if this is still the way things are done within the Chinese immigrant community, since fashion is very accessible nowadays and Chinese people are very brand conscious nowadays of luxury fashion. More so than Americans, and I dare say a greater part of Europe. Without further ado, let's get the meat and potatoes of this video. There's a lot of buzz going around about the democratization of fashion. I'm going to give my opinion both as a fashion insider and as a consumer of fashion. Before I go any further, I need to set some parameters for this video so we're clear about what I'm talking about when I talk about the democratization of fashion. What is democratization of fashion? According to the word on the internet, democratization of fashion means to make fashion accessible to everyone globally, regardless of socioeconomic standing. Okay, now that we have democratization of fashion clearly defined, let's break it down to what the broad definition is to smaller digestible parts of what accessibility means to consumers. I don't like making blanket statements on such a big issue, making accessibility a monolith, and not its own issue to different communities. I want to address as best as I can to different community issues of accessibility. A lot of the conversation is one-sided from the consumer's perspective and not so much from the fashion industry side of what's possible and what isn't in the way the industry is set up currently. I will call out when the fashion industry can do better, but I will also call out when the consumers can do better on their part to get what they want. No one is all right or all wrong in this conversation. As both a consumer and someone who works in fashion, I will give you both sides of the story. I will address the topic of accessibility to key points discussed on social media, the internet, and magazine outlets out there today. First, I will bring up a topic of accessibility from a consumer standpoint. Then I will explain how the fashion industry works and in a realistic way of what is and isn't possible on the point of accessibility on each of the topic. Lastly, I will give you my conclusion of whether it exists in fashion already or what the fashion industry or the consumer could do better. When people say that they want access to fashion, this can be interpreted in many ways related to different communities and areas of fashion. I will cover 6 main ones that need to be addressed in a meaningful way from both a consumer's point of view and from a fashion insider's point of view. One of the topics I see a lot is the ability to see the looks on the runway. Nowadays, with the accessibility of streaming and YouTube, all the fashion shows are literally at our fingertips. You can see the big and small designers who put out fashion shows every season. Beside Vogue Runway's website, where you can see all the pictures of the runway shows, there are videos from some of the shows too. If Vogue Runway doesn't have the video, the brand have their own YouTube channel where you can see all the looks from the runway. In this regard, the once exclusivity of viewing fashion collections to only select the individuals who could buy the fashion has been democratized by the internet. As upset as people will get for not being admitted to fashion shows in person without any credentials, this isn't going to change since fashion shows offer PR and marketing to get sales. There are people who work for fashion brands and are in the fashion industry who don't get in. Why would they allow you, who is an average person, into fashion shows that cost tens of thousands of dollars or more? I know a lot of people get pissed that they don't get access into fashion shows in person. What they fail to realize from a fashion brand's perspective is, this is marketing for the brand that has allocated a lot of money for the show, ranging anywhere from $10,000 to $300,000 to generate the maximum positive press for the brand to bring in sales. What would be their return on investment if fashion brands let people in who cannot give them exposure? I will agree that fashion brands needed to be more inclusive to celebrities and influencers who attend their shows, but I can say that in the last 6 or 7 years, we have seen more Black and Asian celebrities sitting at the front rows of these shows, which leads to the ability and the accessibility, as many consumers say, to buy the looks from the runway. Consumers all want the looks from the runway but do not have the budget for it. But if you want to get the looks from the runway, the internet is full of bloggers letting you know where to find the cheap disposable dupes. If you want to know how to style the looks for every day, there are plenty of YouTubers showing you how. Let me be clear from a fashion insider's perspective. You can get the look, but you absolutely cannot expect to get the same quality and refined workmanship from those dupes at those prices. Somewhere along the way, you either have to sacrifice the quality and craftsmanship, or you are essentially knowingly or being willfully ignorant to the human cost of slave labor involved when you expect the look, quality, and workmanship. If you want to know the real cost of dupes, please subscribe to my Patreon on how high-end and fast fashion works so you can make an informed decision on whether something is worth the price you pay for it. Another point of democratizing fashion is to do away with the hierarchy tiers of fashion. People who want to do away with the hierarchy of fashion to make fashion accessible to everyone. Here's why it won't happen from a fashion insider's perspective. Whenever I hear this, it makes me chuckle a little because they clearly do not understand why it's essential for fashion to have the different tiers of fashion. Kind of like knowing which lane you and your target customers are in. What is the price point of the clothes determines what the designer can design. Then based on the selling price, they know what material they can use and the workmanship they could put into the design. Also, it will set the brand to see who the target customers are. Lastly, which stores they will sell to, who will buy their clothes, as well as which floor they will be hanging on and with who they're hanging with. Even with the shift to online retail, the rule still applies. The 6 tiers of fashion are haute couture or couture, luxury brands, contemporary designer, bridge and moderate, fast fashion, budget and mass market. If you want to know more about why the fashion industry have tiers of hierarchy, please see my next topic, Why Hierarchy of Fashion Exists, from the link in the description box. Okay, let's all take a breather here so you can digest all the things I've said about the democratization of fashion. Come back for part 2 where I wrap up the democratization of fashion. See the link in the description box below. I hope you liked this video. Give a thumbs up if you did. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions. And please subscribe and help me grow this channel. Thank you. Bye.